that little narrative thing that's been built up, that the more exotic the location, the more unusual the subject, the more inherently better the photograph is. How's it? This idea that there's nothing to photograph is, I'm sorry, if you haven't got the imagination to look around you and go, how would that thing look if I took a photograph of it? Then we need to do something about that. It's easy to sit there and go, do you know, I want to photograph Yosemite, but I live in New York. Okay, then you've got a problem. Or the photographer who lives in the Midwest and thinks there's nothing that ever happens of interest here. I used to have the same thing. I would sit in my car in South Africa at traffic lights, sitting kind of going, oh, I'm so bored. I wish I was in America or Europe or Southeast Asia, where things are exciting and there's interesting things to photograph, instead of me just looking here at the same set of robots. In South Africa, we call traffic lights robots. And there's the hawkers selling their wares. Oh my God, I'm so bored. And then, of course, you see that self-same set of traffic lights that has been photographed by one of South Africa's top photographers. And you think, how did they see the picture? This is what we need to change. The 36 image exercise is quite literally like the hardest thing that I've ever done as a photographer. Even now, if I try it again, it's difficult with all my expertise. But it is, I think, the cure for saying that there is nothing to photograph. And what you do is you take an object, everyday random object, something that you hopefully are interested in, and you try and photograph it in 36 different ways. You can use any arsenal in your toolbox: depth of field, motion blur, lighting, all of that kind of stuff, so long as each image is different. And to begin with, you think, this is quite easy. I've done this and I've done that, and I'm looking from the side. You do the usual sort of things. But over time, it gets trickier. And this is what's happening, is you're forcing yourself to see the everyday with fresh eyes. In this day and age, with Instagram and all that kind of stuff, it is so easy to be overwhelmed with amazing photographs of like exotic places. And that is, I think, the mark of a photographer who just has the ability to go to amazing places. It's not skill. The real skillful photographer is the one who can be confronted with boring places, with humdrumness, and tease out a photograph that is exceptional, that makes people go, wow, I've never seen the thing that I'm familiar with photographed in that way before. That's awesome. In October, I went to Baltimore. We went over for Halloween. Now, I've been to the States quite a few times, and so that initial rush of kind of, wow, this is all new and very different, has somewhat dissipated. However, I always photograph more when I'm in America or somewhere else where it is not my home, because I'm kind of like, I'm seeing things fresh. I'm seeing things anew. And every time I go away, I'm thinking about, do you know what, Alex? I'm doing what I tell people who I mentor and in the cohort not to do, which is to want to go somewhere else and take photographs of things that are unusual. So I kind of feel conflicted, but I feel that when I come back, it's reinvigorated my vision again. It's given me a little break from my usual world and allowed me just to reset my vision to come back with fresh eyes. Being able to coax these photographs out of boring places, for me, is a process of being present, of adjusting my focus from drifting around in my head to thinking about an image. What is here that is piquing my interest? If I am in an environment where I see it every single day, what are the things that I have screened out of my head? You know it. You've got that feeling. The commute that you take every single day, there are things you never notice. But one day you drive along or you're on the train and something has changed. And you think, hang on a second, I've never noticed that thing before. That's what I started to do, is to be present in the moment, to think about the things that I could photograph, to understand about what it is that I wanted to photograph, to come back to the images that I had taken. Now, this is the benefit of being in your environment, of photographing the boring things, is that you can revisit them. You can incrementally improve your ability to see things, because you can revisit the place, you can revisit the object, you can revisit the subject. You can't just go to Yosemite whenever you feel like it, unless you live in Yosemite. But bit by bit, peel away that dullness until you find something in there, a flower, a shape, a beam of light, some texture, whatever floats your boat. I get far more satisfaction of finding an image that nobody else has seen before because they've just completely overlooked it, than I do from trying to recreate something that has been photographed 1,000 times before in the same way. This problem, it affects all photographers. It doesn't matter the ability, the skill level. At the beginning of somebody's photographic journey, they're like, I don't know what to photograph. So, they look on Instagram, they look on books, and they see these amazing things, Africa and all the Southeast Asian, monks hidden in the jungle and all that kind of stuff. And they think, this is what I should be photographing. It's too easy to go somewhere that is stunning, visually amazing. Put your camera down on the same spot as everybody else, wait until that light, which everybody else has found for you already, and just kind of copy it. Do you really want to do that? Do you really want to just have the same picture as everybody else of the same things? Do you? I mean, if you do, that's cool. All right. Okay. I get it. I appreciate that. And that is absolutely fine. I don't. I want to have something more. I spent too much of my life as a photographer falling into that trap of moaning about there's nothing to photograph, when of course forgetting that I think for the majority of you who are watching this video, you would probably go to where I lived, Joburg and Pretoria, and be captivated by all sorts of things. The people on the street, the animals, the scenery, the jacarandas, the lighting, the thunderstorms, all these things that for me were just a dull, never-ending procession of the same thing that I saw day in and day out. And that was me being a boring photographer, because I didn't photograph things that I should have, that I should have explored. That not because I wanted to be a photographer of thunderstorms, but I would have been exercising my photographic eye to see the world as a camera sees it, as a photographer sees it, as somebody who is visually excited sees it. That was the biggest failing, of thinking that there was nothing to photograph and everything was boring. If you want to know how I started to exercise my photographic eye, to start, going beyond that 36 exposure trial and really begin to see the world as a camera does, check this video out over here. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you again soon.